DC, how does Doctor Who inspire you?
You know, there's something I always liked about the Doctor Who aesthetic. You know, I like that kind of steampunk style. And I always liked the way the Daleks look. And, you know, the one thing I think that kind of influenced me in the way I portray robots in my book is actually very different than the Daleks, however. Because the Daleks are kind of this evil, well, they're really oriental anyway because they have a living being inside, but whereas the Daleks are kind of evil, here the robots really aren't either evil nor are they good. They're just robots. And so the robot in my book kind of influences how is kind of a mirror for the people around them. And so the characters kind of realize themselves by holding themselves up to how they interact with this robot. It doesn't really have a personality.
And we talked about you getting your start, but we have yet to hear about you.
Well, I've been writing for a long time. Right now I cover crime for the Stevens Point Journal, so I write every day. You're talking about criticism. There's probably no one who gets more criticism than a journalist. So I've already learned to take my lumps. And I've been doing this. I've been writing. I wrote a series of short stories called Robot Awareness probably about 10 years ago, and I pretty much just wrote them for my friends. You know, this is when, well, there was internet, of course, but I wasn't really on it as much. So I would print them out and hand them to my friends, and I kind of had this little cult following of people that I worked near that would read it. And I always wanted to put it in a book. And so eventually, after several false starts, I ended up coming out with this. So basically, what this is it's a serial. So this is part one of the serial. It's about 10 chapters on a Kindle. I think it's about 160 some pages. And I have 47 chapters written so far in raw form, and I think I've edited about 20 of them. So I'm kind of getting my start into this field. There's a lot to learn, a lot I still don't know, and I'm figuring out. But the nice thing about being a journalist is that you have an editor pretty much tearing your work apart on a daily basis, and that makes a big difference. If you take it, you can take it two different ways. You can take it as criticism and I saw this, I don't want to do this anymore, or you can say, okay, what are they teaching me? What am I learning from this? And you take that, and you build on it, and after you look back a year or two, you're like, wow, I've gotten a lot better. And so I'm kind of hoping this is the same way. I have several other projects planned besides Robot Awareness. I think there's going to be about 8 parts to this. And I also have a fantasy that I started called Point Blue, which is like a fantasy set in like a kind of an Alaskan wilderness sort of a setting. And then I also have an autobiography of my Aikido teacher, who was like one of the first non-Japanese people to learn Aikido. So he's been doing it for like 50 years. And that one's called Penguins on the Hill. And that's what I have to say about that.
What is one of your biggest thrills of your career so far? Like a highlight.
Seeing this cover, actually.
I actually remember that day because you tweeted about the cover. And, tell us about the cover. Is very interesting. Who designed the cover?
Interesting. So, a friend of mine who is a Japanese exchange student at the college where I live, we were kind of introduced through a mutual friend. I was like, hey, I got this ebook coming out. I really don't know what I'm going to do with the cover. I know you're a graphic designer. It seems he does some cool stuff. Would you help me with it? And she was like, yeah, totally. So we went back and forth with a bunch of different ideas, and it was kind of like, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's okay. She showed me stuff, and I'd be like, yeah, that's kind of what I want. And it didn't really look like this. And then all of a sudden, I had like a leg issue, and I was in the hospital for overnight. And so it was kind of a terrible time. And I came home, and I checked my email, and this was sitting in my inbox, and I'm like, oh my God, that's it. That is it. I'm like, that is so cool.
And a good lesson there too is collaboration and, cross-culture, new ideas, new people, diversity, and it turned into that. So that's really awesome.
It was hard too because something about the Japanese personality, they kind of want to follow instructions, and I kept telling her, like, I really want you to just kind of take this and run with it.
So you pushed her too?
I pushed her to do
You
it, because-
refused to give her instructions, so she was stuck.
I was giving her, because I was telling her things, and I'm like, take what I give you and just jump it all around and come up with something
So
totally.
she literally, I think she took instructions.
She did.
Because she literally jumped. Yeah, so.
She just kind of came out with it.
That's, so something may have gotten lost in translation, that turned out beautifully.
It was exactly
Yeah.
what I wanted.
Yeah.